faculty, staff, and parents of students. It's good to have you here. Today, we would like to talk about some of the plans for restarting, particularly for the fall semester and particularly aimed at students. For faculty and staff and others, we have another town hall that's planned for next week, next Wednesday, the 22nd at 3 p.m., and we'll put out an invitation later today for that town hall. This is a pretty simple format. We're going to have a number of presenters, starting with the president, campus leadership, who will take you through short summaries of the plans in their particular areas, and then we're going to open it up for Q&A. You can submit questions online in the chat session, and we've also received a lot of questions so far, and we'll probably start with those because they all tended in the same direction. So without further ado, I will turn it over to President Wilson. President Wilson?
Well, let me add my welcome also. I'm going to keep my comments relatively short. As was already mentioned yesterday, I did make an announcement in a letter form to the campus community about our plans for the fall semester. We had always targeted July 15th as the date that we were going to do that. Some people had asked why. Well, the reason is that, first of all, there were a number of universities that did go much quicker. In fact, May, there were a number of universities that made announcements as to what their fall plans were, and some as early as in April. Our feeling was that we wanted to make that decision based on the most current data available. July 15th was a good time because you still need a certain amount of time for registrar to get the courses up, for faculty and for students to be able to plan accordingly. And so the combination of being able to have some lead time at the same time trying to have the most recent data available, we settled on July 15th as that time. I do want to mention, though, that it is a very dynamic situation. As far as Michigan is concerned, we are in a better place than we were in April, but it's still a good news, bad news scenario. The good news is that in comparison to other states, we're doing relatively okay. We're not among the bad states by any stretch of the imagination. So we're in the good category compared to the other states. On the other hand, we're trending in the wrong direction. So that's concerning. The thing I want to emphasize, though, is that what we're seeing now with respect to the pandemic is a reflection of people's behavior 3 weeks ago. And so 3 weeks from now, in early August, whatever's happening at that time will be a reflection of what people are doing now. And so hopefully with the directives that the governor have put in place about face coverings, having masks on, the shutdown of some of the bars and other places where people were socially congregating in an irresponsible way, that we will have a better outcome in early August, hopefully. As I mentioned, we are trending in the wrong direction, so it could go either way. And the important thing to know is that we're prepared, regardless of what was said yesterday, we're prepared to be able to change as necessary and either add more courses in the traditional format or less in a traditional format. So let's move on with the town hall. We had 9 subcommittees of what I call the Restart Committee, and a number of the chairs of these subcommittees are with us today to talk about their respective committees and the decisions that they've made. I do want to emphasize, though, that all of the subcommittee chairs are available. So on the question and answers, you might hear from some of the other ones that did not present. And as was already mentioned, this one is going to be geared more towards students, but on, I think it's July 22nd, we will have another town hall, which will be geared more toward our employees and faculty. So with that, the first up is going to be Dean Laurie Clabo of nursing, and she was the chair of the public health subcommittee. She'll be followed by Keith Whitfield, our provost, who's going to talk about academic matters. Then Dean Strauss, Dave Strauss, who is our Dean of Students, who will talk about student affairs kind of issues. Then he'll turn it over to Tim Michaels, who heads up our housing and dining. And if we have time, we'll also go to Rob Davenport, who will be able to talk about facilities. If we don't have time, we'll save that till July 22nd. So with that, Dean Clabo.
Thank you, President Wilson. As the president mentioned, we are very carefully monitoring the situation, not just in Detroit, but across the state. As you may know, we've seen a small but persistent increase in the number of new cases per day in Michigan, moving from an average of about 275 new cases a day at the end of June to about 600 new cases a day in the past week. And yesterday, the state reported 891 new cases, which is actually the highest number since the 14th of May. Also, we're keeping an eye on the positivity rate, which is the percentage of COVID tests that are returned as positive. We've been creeping up a little bit from 2.8% last week to 3.4% this week. Detroit has moved in the last week from being classed by the state as medium risk to medium high risk based on the combination of case rate and positivity. But as the president said, we are in much better shape than other areas of the state. The Grand Rapids area, for instance, is reported at high risk. So with that in mind, we are doing a number of things to make sure that our return to campus is as safe as possible. And for students, there are some things that you should expect that will be different than they have been in the past. The first I want to talk to you about is a mandatory education series called Warrior Safe. And Warrior Safe is 4 online modules. The link to doing those modules was in the president's message yesterday. It's also available on the Wayne State Coronavirus webpage. And everyone who wants to be on our campus, faculty, staff, students, must complete the Warrior Safe training before arriving on campus. It's a really easy, short course that will help you understand the etiology of the disease, how it's transmitted, and most importantly, the things you can do to keep yourself and other members of the campus community safe. So that's first, Warrior Safe training. Click on the link, a couple of easy tests at the end, and you will have a good understanding of this current pandemic. The second is another new process for students. It is for students, faculty, and staff, and that's called the Campus Daily Screener. The link to the screener was also in President Wilson's message yesterday, and it is available on the coronavirus website. The Daily Screener is going to be a really, really important tool. We've given you some numbers about the incidence of disease in the state, but it's also very important that we keep a very close eye on the health of our campus itself. So beginning 48 hours before you come to campus, and every day that you wish to be on campus, you will be asked to complete the Campus Daily Screener. It's a very short 7-question checklist. And when you are finished, if you screen without concern, what we would call a negative screen, you will receive a QR code that says you are cleared to be on our campus today. If you answer yes to one of our questions, meaning a positive screener, you will get a referral to the Campus Health Center. They will reach out to you directly. It does not mean you can't be on campus. It means you can't be on campus until you're cleared by the staff of the Campus Health Center. Our nurse practitioner staff at CHC will reach out to you with a phone call, ask you some questions. They will either decide that you are cleared for campus, and in which case you'll get a new barcode, or they will tell you that they would like to see you. You need to be referred for testing or quarantine. and our campus health center staff are all trained, certified contact tracers. So the daily screener is really important. It will allow us to decide, A, we'll keep an eye on your health so that you know you're well enough to be on campus, and B, aggregate data, de-identified aggregate data will allow us to catch potential outbreaks before they have the opportunity to spread. There is also a testing strategy. We have testing available on campus, and testing will be mandatory for everyone who has symptoms of COVID-19. So anyone who describes consistent symptoms will be tested, and we can test you at the campus health center. There's also mandatory testing for our student athletes because of the nature, excuse me, of exposure in athletic competition, as well as any folks living in campus housing. And that's, again, higher risk in a more dense population. So screening for campus residents will be a routine part of move-in day, and there will be some screening of populations on campus throughout the course of the academic year, depending on incidence of disease. But the most important thing to know is what are the things that you can do. And you're going to hear much more about this from every member of of the team who presents to you today. But I want to just give you a kind of high-level overview of a couple of things. The first is campus looks a little different. Some of the furniture has been moved, the chairs have been blocked off. It looks a little different than when you left it last time, and that is so that we can maintain effective social distancing. So it is all of our responsibility to make sure that we maintain a 6-foot bubble around us at all times possible. So please follow directional signs you see on campus. There are also limits to the number of people who can be in elevators. In some hallways, there is directional traffic. We ask you to be exceptionally careful about hand hygiene, making sure that you wash your hands for at least 20 seconds using soap and water as often as you can throughout the course of the day. Hand sanitizer stations have been deployed at the entrance to all of our buildings on campus, and we ask you to make wise and frequent use of those hand sanitizer dispensers. But the most important thing you can do is to wear a mask. Please remember that it is now mandatory to wear at least a cloth face covering in all public spaces on campus. You will not be allowed into a campus building without wearing a face mask. Face masks will be provided for students, and you're going to hear more about that from Dean Strauss, I'm sure, in a few minutes. But we want to make sure that you understand it. The most important thing we can do as a community until a vaccine is widely available is to wear a face mask consistently at all times when in public spaces. Indoors mandatory, outdoors mandatory when you can't maintain 6 feet distance from each other, but we would encourage that you wear the mask outdoors at all times. Many people will say that until we have a vaccine, a mask is our best vaccine. I would encourage you to think about how you use and care for your face mask. There's direction in the Warrior Safe training that will help you understand how to put your mask on, how to take your mask off, how to properly wear your face mask. It has to cover your nose and your mouth at all times. Many people are tempted to move their mask to talk. You don't need to move your mask to talk. It is really, really the most important thing you can do. One other change you'll see is that for the first time this fall, we will be mandating influenza vaccine for all students who don't have either a medical or religious reason to not receive the vaccine. But the combination of 2 respiratory viruses in any setting is a dangerous combination, and one that we are going to avoid by making sure that all of us receive our flu vaccine. There are many, many places where you can receive a flu vaccine. beginning in the campus health center, also including your primary care provider and many of the commercial pharmacies in your area. But by October 15th, the flu vaccine for this year is obviously not available yet, but by October 15th, everyone on campus should have had their flu shot. I think the most important message that I leave with you is that what you do affects my health, and what I do affects your health. We want you to be safe, and that means wear a mask, wash your hands, don't touch your face, be socially distant. Those sound like really simple things. There's the provost demonstrating good behavior right away. Those simple behaviors, the act of consistently wearing a face mask is believed to reduce the incidence of transmission by up to 70%. Really, really important for us to do. Be warrior safe, be warrior strong. And now, the man who has all the answers to what will really happen on campus in the fall, our provost, Dr. Keith Whitfield.
Thank you so much, Dean Clabo. And as you can see, I pay attention to what Dean Clabo says. Wearing masks is our best frontline protection. It's easy to do. You can hear me, but because I'm sitting inside my office, I don't necessarily need to have this. So I'll take that off just to make sure that everyone can hear me. So I'm your Provost and Chief Academic Affairs Officer. And so I want to talk about the academic activities that are going to go on in the fall. We've been talking about this. Our faculty have been preparing. I think, as you know, that in the winter semester, we went from being in person to doing things remotely. And I just want to give them yet another shout out to say it was amazing how hard they worked and how quickly they worked to convert their classes. It's not a simple thing to change the way in which you actually teach a class. And so what they did has actually been a way in which we were able to maintain the academic mission of our university, which is very important to us. But first and foremost is the health of our faculty, staff, and students. We think that that is the most important thing that we can do. And so, as Laurie laid out, there's a lot of things that you'll do if you're on campus, but you may be on campus, you may not be on campus. That's been a question that a lot of people have asked. So we've got 5 different ways in which you'll be able to get that unbelievable Wayne State education. One is through traditional courses, and these are courses that are done just like they've always been done and that you would come on campus for. We consider those traditional. Also remote synchronous, meaning that students will log in online at a specific time that their class is specified for and have that educational experience. Then we also have online courses that we've been doing for a long time and we continue to get better at. There's no specific meeting time. Students actually can go online and be able to access the course at their leisure and be able to make sure that they're making sufficient progress. We'll also have what we consider hybrid classes. Hybrid classes are when students will occasionally come to campus and to have face-to-face instruction, but they'll also complete some of their work online through distance education. And then lastly, we have individually arranged courses. These include dissertations, theses, individual research projects, for art and even music, where individual sessions are actually done. We will have those folks come on campus for those, but those are individually done, not maybe in a classroom. As Laurie mentioned, in some of our classrooms, you're going to see a classroom that might have held 240 people. We're only going to be scheduling maybe 30 people in them because we want to make sure that we have the appropriate spacing. So that will be something that you'll see if you have those on-campus classes. Some have been curious as to how many of these different sorts of classes we have. And the president shared that yesterday in a number of the news outlets that were highlighting some of what Wayne State's doing. But just to remind you, about 20% are going to be traditional. And I can tell you that that number is actually decreasing so that there'll be fewer and fewer, only the ones where we really have to have people on campus, that we don't have a way to be able to do remote instruction. They'll have that as an option. In terms of remote and online, it consists of about 46% of the classes that we'll be offering. Hybrid is only about 2%. And then those individually arranged ones, because we do have so many graduate students pursuing an outstanding experience here at Wayne State University, that comes up to about 32%. But this ratio will change. It likely will change as things change with the pandemic. As the president mentioned, we might have opportunities to do more. We might need to do less. But remember, first and foremost is the safety of our students and our faculty. And so that's the judgments in which we make about how we actually offer those campus courses. Dean Clabo covered a lot of the most important things, but I want to come back to a couple of them because you should hear them again and again and again. One is social distancing, that we're going to be doing that in classrooms. We want to make sure that as people come into classrooms that you don't bunch up at the door. You should be making sure that you take the responsibility of making sure that you have at least 6 feet around you, a bubble as it were. We're also, as safe for folks that are going to be students, I think Dean Strauss will talk about them, but we've got some really cool face masks, which will provide some protection, which is very, very important. One of the other things I think that wasn't talked about was about shareables. Things like textbooks, pens, pencils, study materials, beverages. Those are the kinds of things that we'd like you to refrain from actually sharing. It may seem like it makes obvious sense, but it's something that we might have done when we weren't in the pandemic. And so it's something that we might naturally jump to and want to do. So we've got to try to avoid those kinds of behaviors. Health behavior is going to be, at least in the immediate time frame, our best protection against this. And so as a community, as trying to be warrior strong, we've got to make sure that we follow all of those rules and actually encourage others. No one needs to necessarily be the health police, but encourage others to do those healthy behaviors. Because as Laurie said, me wearing a mask protects you, and you wearing a mask protects me. We all are in this together, and we need to make sure that we think about the behaviors that we're doing. But at the same time, there's no better time to be able to continue to make sure that you're pursuing your education. So I want to make sure that you stay true to that. I want to make sure that that you're finding the ways. Our financial aid office is open. As you might have noticed, our Board of Governors actually passed a 0% tuition increase for the 2021 school year. That's a pretty darn good deal for the kind of education that you get at Wayne State University. So make sure that you take advantage of it. It's a great opportunity. So I've just about come to the end of my comments. I'm trying to think of who's up next. It looks like David Strauss, our Dean of Students, is actually up next. Always a sharp dresser, always wearing our colors proudly. David, why don't you share some of what you have for our folks out there?
Okay, thank you so much, Provost Whitfield. And good afternoon to everyone. I hope that you and your friends and your loved ones are well, and that you are staying warrior safe and warrior strong. I join you in missing campus. I miss not seeing you in the student center, hanging out on campus, and at student activities. But I know that we will see each other soon, as I know you are committed to keeping our campus community healthy. Student life is open. While we won't be together in person at activities and events and meetings, I am very excited about the fall activities calendar. There is a lot happening and there's a lot going on. Student organizations, be sure to check out the updated student org resources we have for you on the Dean of Students Office website to help you operate successfully in the virtual world. And I also encourage you, student organizations, to apply for Student Activity Funding Board funds to put on virtual events for the campus to enjoy. Everyone, please be sure to regularly check the Dean of Students Office website, where one click away, among other important resources, are the campus activities calendar, student organization involvement opportunities, and wellness and student basic needs programs through our Warrior Life and Wellness program. Also, it is important to regularly check the university coronavirus website and the weekly Get Involved email. And always check your Wayne State email. That is how you will be connected and involved and be successful. I am very excited about the voter engagement plans that the Student Senate has been working on to make sure that everyone in the Wayne State community votes this November. And I'm also very eager to soon unveil a new volunteering services platform for students to get involved in the community. This fall semester really is going to be great. Now, to make it great, I need all of you to join me in keeping our campus COVID safe. Please, please be diligent with the safety regulations being required of all of us. Please look out for each other. Please be part of the solution, not the problem. Completing the Warrior Safe training, always submitting the Campus Daily Screener, wearing a face mask, and maintaining social distancing are not only required in our student code of conduct, but are key to keeping you and your fellow warriors well. Please heed this safety rally call, not only on campus, but in all you do. Let's not have the tragic after effects of gatherings we've heard about this summer, not only nationally, but right here in our great state of Michigan. Now, at Residence Hall move-in, at locations around the community in late August, with details to come to your Wayne State email, and on campus as you arrive for in-person instruction or coming to use university resources like the library, we will be distributing the Wayne State logoed face masks the provost was wearing. We'll be distributing them free of charge as part of the Warrior Safe is Warrior Strong PPE swag bag. And among other items, other safety items in the swag bag will be those 3 face masks. Now, additionally, throughout the semester and around campus, not only on Central Campus, but at other buildings, Scott, Missouric, Applebaum, Illich, A-Tech, etc., we will have those face masks available for you to obtain. We also have our Warrior Safe is Warrior Strong student ambassadors who will be around campus, always having face masks on hand to distribute if you need one. Now, these face masks are reusable, so you can wash them and put them right back to use. Now, we're also going to provide you with lanyards that will have a hard plastic case to store your One Card. It is going to be really important that you keep your One Card on you at all times. For example, to access the libraries. The W Food Pantry will continue to be open this fall semester. Now, also at the W, we will be distributing loaner technology resources, including laptops. We'll have extra face masks there to pick up in case you forget yours. Now, we know that this pandemic can and has taken its toll on our emotional wellness. I want you to know that we are all here for you. Counseling and psychological services continues to provide free tele and video counseling. And there are other free mental health resources on campus, including the College of Education's Mental Health and Wellness Clinic and the Warrior Chat peer counseling program. All of this is part of the Warrior Life and Wellness program, and all that information and more can be accessed from the Dean of Students Office homepage. And if you ever have any questions or need anything, just click on the Ask a Question button on the Dean of Students Office homepage. We are here to assist you. I want you to be well, take care, and I look forward to seeing you online and hopefully in the very near future on campus. And now I'd like to introduce Tim Michael, I'd like to introduce back to President Wilson, who is going to join us again for more information.
Yeah. Thank you, David. I just wanted to just interject just for a second here. I was trying to interject earlier, but I was muted. So one of the themes that I hope you have heard so far is the theme of this is a collective responsibility for all of us. We have to take care of each other. You might have noticed that earlier on, I coughed. And just a couple of points about that. First of all, I'm not sick. I had a handful of nuts right before I got on, and it just kind of got lodged the wrong way. But the more important point is that I should have been a better role model and coughed in my elbow and not in my hand. One of you out there caught that and I made a comment about it in the chatter box, which was totally appropriate, which is what I wanted to comment on. I could say that it was all staged to see if you would catch it, but it wasn't. I just slipped. And so we have to continue to be vigilant in terms of our own behavior, but we also have to look out for each other. And if you see someone, not wearing a mask, if you see somebody not social distancing, help them, correct them. And those of you who are corrected, please take it in the spirit in which it was meant. That's all I wanted to say. So whoever it was that was in the chatter box that noticed that I coughed into my hand and not my elbow, kudos to you. Thank you.
Thanks, President Wilson. I'm Tim Michael. I work with our team in many of our campus service areas, and I wanted to give you an update on housing and dining and a few other things. So it's very exciting to be only 6 weeks from the start of housing move-in for the fall semester. We've worked all summer, and a lot of our planning involving our faculty, students, and staff have developed new norms for campus housing this fall, very consistent with what you've already heard the other speakers discuss. First and most important for me to say is that campus housing will be open this fall. WSU is home for many of our students, and we will be open this fall just as we were last semester when COVID came to campus, and just as we are now this summer. Our responses to COVID may evolve over the fall semester, but it is our intention to be open and to support and care for all students who live with us. There is still housing available for those of you who are waiting to get a final look at your class schedules and make a final decision. Application information is available on our website, housing.wayne.edu. For those of you who have already signed up for housing, but may now be reconsidering your decision, we did extend the normal housing license agreement cancellation deadline from June 30 to next Monday, July 20. If you decide to cancel, visit the housing website, housing.wayne.edu, and type cancel in the search bar at the top to get to a cancellation form to complete. Any request to cancel which we receive after July 20 will have to go through the normal housing license agreement cancellation process and will be granted for the reasons listed in the HLA. If you have specific questions or concerns before you make your final decision, please contact the housing office if we can help. As an aside, I also wanted to say that many students unsure about the fall have been asking about moving to campus for the winter semester. And I can say, yes, that we will be open, there will be availability, and we'll make that an easy process for you to do. More information about winter semester housing will be available later in the fall. Our Residence Life staff has worked very hard this summer preparing for the return of our campus residents. Instead of a traditional, very busy weekend move-in for all of housing, this year, move-in will be through an appointment process and stretch over 7 days, starting on Monday, August 24th. This will allow us to practice good social distancing during the move-in process. Before your scheduled move-in day, you will need to complete an electronic pre-arrival checklist, which will include the Warrior Safe training Dean Clabo mentioned, to be able to get your move-in pass, which you'll have to show when you come to campus. We will also be testing all residents for the COVID virus as your first stop on your move-in day. Lots of information about these and other things we want you to know or do before you come to campus will begin arriving in your WSU email box starting next week. So please be sure to check your email daily going forward. On the front of the housing website, there is a tile for COVID housing information, which I encourage you to click on and review. It will provide a lot of information about our shared responsibility to follow the best practices to mitigate the virus, many that you have already heard discussed. We want every resident to understand what will be expected of you, such as wearing a face covering, physical distancing, staying out of large groups, not hosting outside visitors in your room, doing your daily screener, etc. Safety is our number one priority, and each of us will need to do our part to live successfully on campus during the pandemic. Now, to touch briefly on other campus services, the WSU bookstore is currently open, and campus dining, the student center, and other campus retail will also be open to serve you in the campus community starting later in August. You will experience our new normal ways of engaging in these activities as we implement CDC and health department guidance to help our patrons dine and shop safely. Physical distancing, wearing face coverings, the elimination of buffets and self-service dining, and a robust to-go program will all be present in our dining locations, in the WSU bookstore, and in the student center. There's a lot of information available to inform and guide you as you navigate the campus this fall. I invite you again to visit the housing website, which also has links to campus dining and other services. I also encourage you to follow us on WSU social media. If you have a question, please ask. There is a live chat feature on the housing website in addition to a lot of FAQs. If you don't find what you need, live chat us or email us at housing@wayne.edu. We will answer your questions, or we will find someone who can, and we will contact you back if you leave us a message. We will look forward to welcoming you on campus this fall. Go Warriors. Well, let me now turn this back over to Michael Wright.
Thank you very much, Tim. Lots of good information, lots of good reinforcement of what we all need to do. Rob Davenport, I would like to bring up for just a couple of minutes. Rob, if you can keep it. I want to make sure we have enough time for Q&A, but there's been a lot of questions on facilities for those students who are returning. So if you could just give us a couple of minutes of reassurance on things like the cleanliness and safety of our facilities, and that would be great. Thanks.
Absolutely, sure. Thanks, Michael. So, our facilities restart committee, 25 members strong, by the way, put together a facilities playbook. This 46-page document with 8 sections covers a number of things, including custodial services, which, we talk about enhanced cleaning schedules. Wipes will be available around the classroom environments. We'll address frequently touched areas, doors, restrooms, etc., restroom fixtures. Also, you'll see signs around the campus indicating social distancing and where that's appropriate, and reminders as such. Also, our space planning folks worked very closely with the academic side to determine how to fashion social distancing in the classroom environment. So a lot of work has been done there. We have addressed indoor air quality concerns within the playbook and water maintenance concerns as well. So I invite you to go out to WSU COVID website, and you'll find the playbook out there. Should you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us anytime. But we're very excited about our plan, and we feel that it's a very comprehensive way to keep everybody safe here on campus. Back to you, Michael.
Thanks very much, Rob. We'll go right to Q&A. And our first question is about the libraries. I know we have the Dean of the Libraries, John Cawthorn, on. So, John, the question is, will the libraries be available, and will they be safe?
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Michael, and all the team that's been able to present this today. It's really an honor and privilege to be here with all of you to say that the libraries will be open many days. Sorry about that. Bishop's always coming in looking for dog friends. We're going to have Schiffman Library open and Law Library and undergraduate open many hours. So the main thing is to pay attention to library.wayne.edu. That's where we're going to post the hours. And we also want to emphasize that when you come into the library, you'll notice that all the furniture has been moved around, like Dean Clabo has said. We'll also have technology available to check out. We'll have technology available spaced out in six feet increments. Again, the website is library.wayne.edu. We'll be open weekdays and weekends. So we hope that you'll be able to use our facilities to study when you can't do that in your dorms or where you are on the campus. We think the library is a very central part of the experience for students. And so I'm just delighted to represent all the people that are associated with the library.
Thank you very much, John. The next question we have is about access to technology, and there are some students who don't have as good of access to technology. We do have an IT subcommittee, but I believe the provost is going to answer this question.
Sure. Thanks, Michael. You know, our computer and information technology folks have been working around the clock since all of this began, because we've become far more reliant upon some of our electronic devices, particularly laptops. CNIT is committed to providing the technology and support services that students actually need at this time. And if you're a student who requires assistance accessing computers or reliable internet service, you can actually go through the Dean of Students office at doso@wayne.edu, and they can provide some help. But you can also go to the CNIT help desk, and that you can access by email at helpdesk@wayne.edu. Or you can call them at 313-577-4357. They can provide you with lots of assistance to be able to make sure that you have all of the technology needs that are needed to be able to actually do the courses, and also to be able to kind of navigate Canvas, which is our learning management system. That's where, if you took classes in the wintertime, that's where you find your classes at. We've also got some other things for online learners. About being the effective online learner. That's actually on Canvas. Learn Anywhere is a place where we have lots of resources about how to best be able to navigate living our lives academically online. We also have an academic success center, which you may have visited in person, but it's there online as well. And so if you just go to our website, you'll be able to search for that and be able to find it. There's also a Study Skills Academy that offers free study skills counseling and other services. That's still available. So make sure that you reach out and use those resources as well. There's lots of other different specifics that may go on in terms of what you may need. In terms of some of our art classes, they figured out ways to be able to have online instruction. So all of those won't be in person. Make sure that you actually go to your registration and see what kind of class you actually have for what you may be been registered for. It may, back in June, been something that showed in person, but it may have been moved to remote or vice versa. So make sure that you go there to figure out what courses you'll need online, and then be able to connect with the Dean of Students office and with technology to figure out the assistance that you may need to be able to make sure that you can do the best that you can with your courses. Let me just close by saying phones are fantastic. They are wonderful instruments and tools, but there's lots of things in terms of accessing education at this time in this way where you probably need to have a laptop or something more sophisticated than that. If you don't have one, contact us. There are computer labs that are all across campus that you can use. If you're a student that's been with us before, you probably have heard about those. Many of those will be open, and we'll be providing information about which ones will be open on our COVID website. But in addition to that, just know that you need more than your phone to be able to be successful, and we want you to be as successful as you can be. So with that, thank you very much.
Don't go away. Don't go too far, Keith. We got a number of questions that are right down the alley for you. First, on tuition and fees. This question: why do students pay the same price for online classes, and can we expect to see any changes with fees in the coming semester?
Sure. It's a good question, and I've actually been in contact with a lot of my fellow provosts from around the country. One of the things that I thought was interesting, that it's another advantage of, I guess, a Wayne State education, is that for many other schools, you actually pay an extra fee for online courses. We've never charged that, and when you're getting remote, you're still getting the same quality instruction by world-class faculty. And so for us, that piece of it hasn't changed, and so the tuition piece won't change. Michael, what was the second part of your question?
It's about fees, and in particular, do we expect to see any changes with fees? And they mentioned the rec center and course fees.
Sure. Relative to the rec center, I think that may still be under development, but because, as it stands right now, there's going to be limited, if not no, access to the rec center. We adjusted those when we came to the winter semester, and we'll do the same thing now. For some of the individual classes, they might have lab fees with them. And what we're going to do is make sure that, if you were using a beaker and sulfur and whatever, and you're not able to use it in the instruction that you're given now, those fees won't be charged to you. But those will be on a class by class sort of basis and not overall.
Keith, another question for you. This is regarding labs. As an undergraduate student, can we access labs, and how will lab classes be handled?
Again, go back to your registration and make sure that it is something that's scheduled to be a lab, that you're going to have that in-person lab. And yes, you will be able to. But I think as Dean Clabo mentioned, see, I learned that time, huh? As Dean Clabo mentioned, we will be doing the spacing. It's the reason why for some classes, they're going to be far smaller than they used to be, because to be able to fit in a lab, sometimes there's only so much room that you can then be able to keep the spacing. But take a look at your registration. You'll see whether you're going to be able to have that. But yes, we are going to have labs open. At least that's the current plan.
What about changes to the academic calendar? Some people have noted that there are changes with other universities post-Thanksgiving, et cetera. Do we plan anything like that?
Sure. We thought about that long and hard because we thought it might be a way that we might be able to, continue to make sure that we find ways to protect students. But when we think about it, our student population is different from, an MSU or a U of M, where you go away and you're supposed to be there on campus and connected to folks, and then you would go back to your families, and then you might come back to the dorms. And the idea is that you might be bringing risk back from contact with others. For us, we're on the ground, blue collar, working every day. For most of us, although we will have the dorms open, and there are people that'll be living in the dorms, for the better part of our population, they actually go back and forth every day. And so there's not as big a need to change and have us not come back after Thanksgiving. So we're going to have a regular academic calendar. It's going to stay the same throughout the semester, unless something changes with the prevalence of the disease. It may be that for some of our remote or on-campus courses that we actually change them to remote, but we'll just have to wait and see how that happens. But for us, it wouldn't make that big of a difference. I think the most important part is that while we're on campus throughout the entire semester, that we practice those proper health behaviors of the social distancing and in making sure that we wear our masks. And we think that is probably the best way to go.
Keith, stay on for one more question, and then the president had a comment on the rec center. But this was in particular about how will dance and art classes be addressed under the new guidelines?
For many of them, I don't think it's all of them, but for many of them, they're going to be in rooms and spaces and timed out so that we can do some of that individual instruction. That was one of the things that was very tough in the winter semester, but a lot of our professors actually came up with some very creative ways to be able to make those assessments and make those instructions occur over time during the winter semester. But again, take a look and see if the class that you registered for is listed as one of those individual ones, and there then should be a place and a time where you'll be working with instructors. But those classes will be like our other classes in that if there are multiple people in them, they will be properly spaced from one another. We'll make sure that they have masks on so then that they can do that instruction. So that work will carry on.
Thank you very much, Keith. If I could bring President Wilson back on to, because there was a little discussion about the rec center fees.
Yeah, so I'm not sure if our athletic director is on or not, but I just want to comment on the rec center for just one moment. The rec center, as the provost mentioned, is closed right now, but that's because the governor has closed all gyms. As soon as the governor lifts that order, we are prepared to open the rec center. We do have a very detailed policy manual that's already been developed. It will be different. We're only going to have a certain reduced capacity. Our rec center is enjoyed by members of the community who have memberships also. We're not going to allow that. It'll only be for the immediate Wayne State community in order to reduce the density. So there will be some new policies. Somebody's going to wipe down every machine after each use, things like that. But I did want to just mention that as soon as the governor lifts the ban on opening of gyms, we're ready to go with the rec center.
Thanks very much. If I could bring up Tim Michael, there's a few questions there. And as Tim, before you start, Dean Cawthorn just asked that I clarify that the Purdy Kresge Library and the Ruther Library will be closed to the public. Tim, there's a few questions that seem like they're in your areas. One, pretty straightforward. Will Starbucks in the Student Center be open?
Yeah, very popular, obviously. We have 2 Starbucks locations on campus, one on Anthony Wayne Drive and one in the Student Center. Both will be open. The plan is for all retail to be open using new norms, as I said, for social distancing and service. But everyone's anxious to get back to providing full support to the campus community.
Okay, I think this may fall in your area. Can a student ask, can I get a student job at one of the campus retailers?
Yes, as we're open, we will be looking for student employees. We employ hundreds of students in many of our areas on campus. And so if I would say, just as a place to get started, write to housing@wayne.edu and let us know what you're interested in, and we'll make sure you get connected to the right area for follow-up.
Thank you very much. There's a housing, I think you talked about this. People that are taking most of their classes online, they don't want to live on campus. What should we do? But I think the answer to that is you can take the classes online. You don't have to live on campus. Will the university extend housing contract deadlines?
So we've already extended that cancellation deadline to line up with the conversation we wanted to have today. We think that moving it from June 30 to July 20 was appropriate, giving people time after today now to make their final decisions. We do have to make lots of plans for how many people are arriving for fall as we prepare the buildings. And so we do have to have a deadline. And so that deadline is next Monday, July 20. People can certainly apply after that, but it will go through the normal review process. As I said earlier, until July 20, you can just go online and fill out that form that you can find on the housing website, and that will end your obligation for your housing license agreement.
Thank you, Tim. If I could have the provost back on. A couple of questions. For students on campus, how will they, I'm sorry, that wasn't for you. When will classes be finalized as online or in person? So students can make decisions on things like housing.
Sure. I would say we're probably about 95% there. I think that any schedule that you have is probably going to have, probably, hopefully, mostly remote, but may have some online. But I don't think you're not going to have courses changing from remote to in person. It's much more likely at the very last minute may have classes changing from in person to remote. Make sure that you go to the registration website and see how your class is classified. It'll either be class, which means that the class takes place on campus, synchronous, online, or then exam. And that's the one that's a bit of a hybrid where people may be taking exams on campus. So take a look at that website. That will give you information about the way in which your class will be done. And then you can make those decisions like about staying on campus or whatever. But I would say that it's probably far more likely that we'll have classes that may move as we get closer to the beginning of school from in-person to remote. But we're just about done. I mean, all the professors have been working very hard, putting in information and signifying that. We just have a few more that we have to work on because we have to make the spacing on campus. Again, it may be that the professor really wanted to have it in person, but we can't find space to be able to do the proper spacing between people. So we switch to remote. So keep an eye on that. Make sure that you check before, make sure that you get it right. Check on Canvas to maybe reach out to your professor and contact them if you have any questions. But follow that and you should be able to know exactly what to expect.
Keith, there was a question that said if online sections are full, will the university add more sections for those interested in online classes?
That person must be reading my mind. We've been working on that very recently because for some of our particularly our general education courses, They have filled up very quickly. And so I'm working with the deans in arts and sciences and in fine performing and communication arts, and trying to figure out ways to make more sections of those. So, keep watchful of those, because they may be things that hopefully this week or next week we're going to try to add some additional sections if we have a high demand for particular classes.
Thanks. If I could have Laurie Clabo comment for this question, please. How will students on campus be notified if there is a case?
That's a great question. While we will be protecting protected health information, anyone who's been exposed to someone who is identified as either presumptively positive or a case will receive notification from the campus health center. Again, I mentioned earlier, our campus health center staff are all trained contact tracers. They will reach out to the contacts of every individual case, as well as if we have building issues, you will hear from the campus health center about whether building spaces are closed temporarily for cleaning, or whether we want a certain group of people who have had prolonged exposure to be able to be tested. I think that there is no shortage of information will be available, and we have plans for every eventuality, both individual cases and we plan for best case to worst case scenario.
We've got questions that are continuing to come in. David Strauss, if I could have one more, and then we'll bring up the president. Will there be events on campus this fall?
So there won't be physical in-person events, so we can't have large group gatherings, but we are putting together a very robust calendar of activities ranging from theater, dance, athletics, student activities, everything and above. But I have had some student organizations ask me, can we schedule our meetings? Can we put on programs? Right now, fall semester, no.
Okay, thank you very much. If I could have President Wilson, please.
Well, I just wanted to close by thanking all of you for joining us.
One question for you, if you can take one question.
Yes.
Sorry. There have been a few questions about winter commencement, and I know that that's a decision that we'll still contemplating, but I didn't know if you want to comment on that at all.
There has not been any definitive decisions on that, but if I was a betting man, I would say that we will not have physical winter commencement. I just don't see that with the flu season coming around in the wintertime, with concurrent with either a second wave or a continued first wave of the COVID-19. I think it's going to be a tough time.
Yeah, I'm sorry I interrupted you. You were about to.
That's okay. All I was going to say is just I was thanking everybody for joining. I do hope that this was useful. I understand there are some parents of students and prospective students on, so I just want you to know that your the academic success as well as the safety of your sons and daughters are really our very highest priority. So I appreciate all of you being on and participating in this. I hope to see you all in the fall. Until then, be warrior strong and warrior safe. Thank you all very much.
Thank you. And I'll just wrap by saying thank you as well. And for folks not necessarily for students, but for everybody else, we do have the town hall. It's next Wednesday, July 22nd at 3 o'clock. And you've heard this a million times, but there's a lot of information on the website and on various websites. So wayne.edu/coronavirus, and you can follow the links and get anything you need, or go to specific sites, say like housing and dining. But thank you all very much. Hope this was useful. Have a great day. Warrior strong.